Welcome to the Nerd Tutorial Podcast, a podcast offering discussions and tutorials about nerdy subjects for people who aren't necessarily nerdy themselves. With you today is myself, your nerdy tutor, and with me today, Konbanwa.
Konbanwa.
My mom. And so we are still talking about Japan. We spent the last 2 weeks gushing over what we did in Japan.
Where we went?
Because we had such an amazing time in Japan, and I still talk about it to this day. I don't know when
I'll be talking about it for years to come.
Oh,
I'm still using my Starbucks Mount Fuji mug.
Oh, good. What about the other one that you got in Tokyo?
Yeah, both of them. They're in a rotation.
Cool.
Yeah.
I got to show off our IC cards here earlier today to a friend.
Oh, very good.
So that's actually going to be our topic here today, is that we did a lot of research before going to Japan about stuff we needed to know, and we wanted to share some of that thoughts with you as far as what we thought about, what we thought we would do going into it, our advice versus our experience of what we actually experienced, and then some of the tools and tips and tricks that we found while in Japan. And the first one I want to start off with is a Wi-Fi router.
The Wi-Fi router saved our lives.
On multiple occasions. Now, obviously, if you go to Japan, you're going to need the internet. We use the internet for everything. I don't know a day in which we didn't use it.
No, and actually, it helped us find things that we didn't even know we were looking for.
Or stuff that we wanted to do at that point as well.
Yeah.
I found it exceptionally useful because most of the traveling that we did throughout the entire time was just using Google Maps. And Google Maps has an amazing element to it where it'll tell you what trains to get on and off at, the train stations, how far to walk. Like if you get off at this station, you got to walk.
The stop number.
The stop number
Not
didn't always give
okay.
you, not all the time. But at the very end, it also told you how much it cost to do that.
Yeah.
Now, for us, we didn't really care about the cost at the end of the day because we had a mixture of both using the JR passes and the regular, just everyday IC cards.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But again, I found that thing just amazingly useful at all times.
Well, talk about the cost of it.
So for us, what I did here is there's multiple websites and multiple different vendors for this, actually. You go online ahead of time and you make arrangements to, you can have it shipped to your hotel in some cases. Now, I had picked up ours at the airport because I just wanted to have it, and it was easy of access to get it to the airport without any additional fees.
Well, it's a luggage claim. I mean, how much easier could that be?
Oh, yeah, no, totally. So you get it ahead of time. Now, I got us the unlimited version. I got us an unlimited plan. It was about 900 yen a day, so it ran us about $130 over the course of the trip.
But it breaks down to $9 a day.
About $9 a day, which, when you think about it, is not that bad. You'd pay that amount in roaming charges
$10 a
easily.
day, yeah.
But even then, I was very frugal with it. I think we only ever used maybe 7 to 8 gigs over the course of those multiple days, but I was also very concerned about having it charged and fully powered. Now, I had a power brick with me just in case, but I was always just, if we don't need it right now because we're hiking through Nara, what are we going to look up in Nara? We didn't use it.
Yeah, turn it off.
But I mostly used it for maps and Google Translate, which I found another great app to use on the phone.
And Google Translate, came in useful a number of times because we were able to ask people questions. Because English isn't that widely spoken. It's
not widely spoken, no. I think that the thing is that a lot of people, and this is the impression I got too, is that if you just went with nouns and verbs and you weren't very intricate with the syntax,
they understood.
They would understand, because obviously us learning Japanese, we had a big problem with the syntax.
Right, but and we did learn enough to be able to be polite.
Mm-hmm.
We could be polite. That was about all.
At worst, that's as much as I want from anybody when they travel from another country. I can remember going to working nearby Disneyland. You get a lot of people who travel who don't speak a lick of English and are not shy about not having spoken a lick of English.
Well, but I want to emphasize, it's not like going to Europe where really, if you're in a situation, most people in Europe do speak pretty decent English. Yeah,
no. In Japan, we rarely found a lot of people that spoke fluent English, or in a lot of cases, we were just lucky to get by with people who spoke just enough English as much as we spoke
to get us there. Yeah,
to help us out. Yeah, so. But no, again, I think the Google app thing there was really great because the translation app, because you could actually when it is connected to the Wi-Fi. You can talk into it, and you can have a conversation with it with another person. You can speak into it, and it will say what you want to say, or at least present a picture on it. In a lot of cases, I just downloaded the character map, the dictionary for it, so I could type in whatever I wanted when the internet wasn't on, and just show it to somebody who would just show whatever was written on there. And it was pretty big, so that way I could just hold my phone up, and so it would be, okay.
Yeah, so that was really useful.
So let's talk about trains, cars, and automobiles in Japan.
Getting around. We weren't in a car, not once.
No.
A couple buses.
We were in a couple buses here.
And even the usefulness of the bus really varied on where you were.
Yeah, like when we were in Mount Fuji, like it had maybe the one bus route, and that was pretty much it. But by comparison, when we were in like Kyoto, that bus was awesome. We used it
buses. And I would have, if I'd known better, not done the on and off bus and just done a combination of the bus lines, because the bus lines took you to all the sites you wanted to see.
And probably might have been cheaper for us at the end of the day too.
I actually figured it out, and yes, it would have been cheaper.
Okay, so
yeah.
But let's talk about trains in Japan. And now this is one we had a little bit of trouble with in the beginning because we didn't understand the differences at all. So there are two types of Japanese railways in Japan. There is the JR Railway.
Which stands for Japan Rail.
Which stands for Japan Rail. Now there's a east side and a west side version of that.
Mm-hmm.
So like just kind of keep that in mind if you're in like the Tokyo section or like Nagoya and east of Nagoya, that's the east side. If you're west of Nagoya, you're probably on the west side of the JR line. So just kind of keep that in mind because there are two different websites for it.
Well, and actually, I found a guide when I was ordering the rail passes that walked you through whether you wanted an all-rail pass, an east pass, or a west pass, because you could get less expensive east or west passes.
Yeah, so what I will say about the JR passes here is that the JR passes are like all around Japan because they're run by they're run by the Japanese Railway Company, which is a private company that runs all over Japan. If you're ever going to ride a bullet train, you're riding a JR train at the end of the day. And you're going to hear a lot of people tell you should get a JR pass. I would recommend getting a JR pass only if you plan to plan to travel around Japan.
Right.
If you're just going to be in like Osaka for the next week, and you're just going to go like to Kyoto or to Nara or to other places around Osaka, like you're just going to go to Gifu for the day and come back, like I don't really think a JR pass will be that helpful to you. And
it wouldn't justify the expense.
No, but if you're traveling all around Japan, especially in our case, we were doing that over the course of 2 weeks, it was very, very useful.
Yeah, so a lot of the, because there are a lot of local lines that aren't covered by the JR pass, and we'll talk about those in a minute, but the places where the JR pass really came in handy, of course, getting to and from the airport in Tokyo, but getting from Osaka, where we landed, to Kyoto, and then from Kyoto to Nagoya, and then to Mount Fuji, and those were all a JR line, although Mount Fuji was a combination of JR and...
Well, because it let you off at one station, then you had to take like a local train that took you like an hour to get all the way down there.
Yeah.
But again, like most JR lines, there's usually about 1 to 2 of them in every prefecture. One that might go around it, another one that basically kind of goes through it.
Yeah, they tend to do loops.
Yeah, like loops are a big deal. So like there might be like a JR loop rail that's in combination with the local lines. But usually I found that was like in Osaka's case, that just went around the major Osaka heart of
the heart of Osaka.
It didn't go like to Nara, or it didn't really go south at all, which is where we were originally traveling, unless you were going to the airport in Narita, not Narita, but the Osaka airport. So like if you plan to travel around Japan, a JR pass is very useful. Now, here's the real thing that nobody told us about how to use the JR pass. But before that, there are 2 different versions of the JR pass, and you can probably speak more to this, Mom. There's the standard one and then the green card.
Right. So when I was locally in San Jose, we have Japantown. So I was actually able, I did some research online, and then I was actually able to make the arrangements for the pass and pay for it.
And you might have been able to talk to somebody who could have helped you out there as well.
Exactly. In Japantown, which was really kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a choice between the regular car and JR for the distance trains. This is the Shinjuku and the bullet trains, the high speed trains.
Yep.
Require reservations in the main car, or else you're going to move around a lot. Even if you had a pass, if you just jumped in on a train without reservations, there may be seats open, but you may have to move because they may be reserved at the next stop.
Yep. Yeah.
So you might have to move around a bit. If you paid extra, and the green card was for a 14-day pass, an extra $100. But if you paid extra for the green car, then those cars were slightly nicer. I mean, there wasn't a great
like a business class.
A business class, yeah. There's a little bit more leg room.
Nicer bathrooms.
Nicer bathrooms, yeah. So they were a little bit nicer luggage storage areas, stuff like that. But where the real value was that the minute you hopped on the green car, somebody would help you find a seat, and there were plenty of seats on the green car, and you didn't move.
I rarely found anybody, sometimes even in the green car. Like, it might have just been us and maybe 2 or 3 other people.
Yeah.
The only time I ever saw that not being the case was when I think we were on our way to Mount Fuji. There was like another family. There was like another set of elderly couple that were there that were traveling a lot further, but they were there in the car as well.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most full I've ever seen it before. But basically, it was like being in a business class, a little bit bigger room, nicer space, certainly better bathrooms, and we always had like guaranteed
seats, which is why I did it. Is that if you buy a green car, you're going to get to sit.
Yep.
And stay seated.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Move. Yeah.
If you got the standard passes, now you could go to, you could certainly reserve seats, but you wouldn't always but you would have to pay extra for the green car at that point.
Yeah.
And so,
well, you could reserve seats in the standard as well. You could reserve specific seats. If you didn't reserve, you'd be moving around.
Yeah, pretty much. So let's talk about real quickly how you use a JR pass real quickly, because that
took us a bit.
Okay, so when we got to the airport in Osaka, we got the passes, and then we were befuddled on what to do next. We had no understanding of what we were supposed to do next. And
I've been told that you could pick up your pass down by luggage, and it wasn't quite that easy. You have to find a kiosk. It's a large office, actually, and you're going to stand in line to pick it up. But then once you pick it up, like nobody, when we got our pass, and you have your passport with you, you'll need that. But when we picked up our pass, nobody explained to us how to use it.
Or what to do once we have it.
Out of it, yeah.
So here's our real simple guide to how to do this. So every JR station and every train station in Japan is going to have an entrance and exit point that leads you to the platform sections. Now, you're going to see there, you can see the normal gates. And we'll talk about the gates here when we go to IC cards, because that's a really cool little bit here too.
Yeah.
But every series of gates always has like a gate office there.
A little window. That
always has a person in there. It has usually a train officer. And sometimes the bigger station will have 2 or 3 in there in some cases. Depending on the which side you're coming from, they're either to the far right or to the far left. They're always off to the side. They're never in the middle. They're always on the sides. Except for maybe like the bigger station, like when we were in like JR Osaka, was kind of in the middle, almost. But like it was isolated, so it wasn't in the way of other people.
Right, because it presumes that you might be asking questions or getting directions,
or you might need help.
Yeah.
So what you do?
And they spoke English as well.
They speak passable English enough to get by.
Yeah.
So because I think they're really kind of understanding that a lot of people would get the JR pass, and probably, if they were going to have the JR pass, would probably be foreigners.
Yeah.
So once you get your JR pass, you want to go to a JR station, and you want to get your JR pass stamped. So that's going to start when your pass can be used on, because once you they're timed passes, so you can only use them during the span of 2 weeks.
So when you buy your pass, it doesn't actually take effect until what you get is a voucher.
Yes.
So when you buy your pass, you get a voucher. You take that voucher into wherever station you're going to start your pass at, and you get your pass, and then it has to be stamped.
Yeah, so once it gets
And
stamped...
that starts your however many days.
Yeah, so if in the case you got a week, now once it gets stamped, now you have 7 days to use it. In our case, we had 14 days, so it was 2 days at that point. And now every time you want to get on and off the train, you have to go to these little offices. And you basically just kind of like show them your pass. They're going to look at it for like half a second and be like, okay, move along, get on the train, get on the train.
They wave you through. A lot of times, if you just like hold up the pass, they wave you through.
Yeah, they would like see the green. They would see our pass and be like, yeah, whatever, go for it.
We never once got asked for
the passports, but I always had mine in my passport just because I was always anticipating them asking about it.
Yeah.
And I will say for those JR passes, those do not look very official at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That was my only thing is that
they don't have a photo, which when we picked up the passes, I kind of expected them to take a picture and laminate a photo on there.
I wasn't so much expecting a photo, but there was nothing on there that was like super like copyright image or anything that made it would give you the impression that like. Now it was kind of like laminated on there though.
It was. It had sort of a seal on it.
So maybe
a clear seal like you'd have on a driver's license sort of seal. But it's a paper pass.
It's basically a paper pass. This looks like something you could have forged if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
We're not giving anybody any ideas. We're just more or less speaking on the quality of it.
Right.
So JR passes we found super useful. Like some places we would take a JR line and then get off and then do a regular train line.
We did them in combo quite a bit, actually.
Especially when we were in Tokyo.
Right.
A little bit in Osaka, Kyoto.
They're all using, and we should say, they're all using the same stations, just different platforms.
Yes. So, but that gets us onto local trains here as well. So every area's got a bunch of local trains in there. Because like we said, like in the case of like Osaka, there's a loop that goes around Osaka, and then there's a JR line that kind of comes in and out of Osaka. It might be going on to the next place, or it might be an end destination. So maybe there's like maybe 3 lines in Osaka, but they were all like coming and going out of Osaka.
Right.
But what if you wanted to go to Nara, or what if you wanted to go elsewhere? Well, you need to take a local train, and the JR line passes. The JR passes don't work for local trains because they're not owned by the same company.
Right.
So it's very similar. So if you didn't have a JR pass, you'd have to pay every time you got on and off the train.
There are little kiosks to do that,
Yeah.
where you basically can kind of figure out and get a ticket. You could load the ticket with however much,
and then you kind of load,
keep using it.
Yeah, so you would just put the ticket
slip it in, yeah.
And then when it ran out of funds, it would just kind of like...
Yeah.
So that takes us to IC cards, which I think are one of the coolest things in Japan, in all honesty. So ICR cards actually come in a variety of different names. Like the one we had was a Silica. They also have Isaka and Passimo, and there was one with like a D. There's actually almost, in total, there's nearly a dozen different variations on it, kind of depending on where you're picking it up from. But they all do the same thing. So, in our case, ours was a blue card. When we got to Japan, we kept seeing a green version of it. Mm-hmm. There was apparently like a pink version and a purple version and an orange version. Again, I think it depends on where you pick it up from.
Yeah, we picked ours up in Osaka, and we paid 2,000 yen for the initial card, which had 1,500 yen loaded on it, and I think there's a 500 yen sort of fee.
For the card, I think. I think the card at the end is like a 500 yen card, but you start with 1,500 yen on it.
Yeah.
And so when you go to the gates, now you'll see a plentiful number of gates here, usually every sort of train station.
Yeah.
There's a little RFID thing that says IC on it, and you just wave your thing over it, and you'll get a nice noise if you can go through, that there's no problem with you going through. But if you get like a bad noise, little gates pop up and stop you from
going through, yeah.
Going through. Because that happened to you once before.
It did, and so this is sort of a heads up. We found the IC cards great to use, but I at one point apparently went through a gate, and I kind of knew it. It happened because I didn't see it flash the dollar amount left, because there is a display as you leave the gate that flashes you the dollar amount left.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the dollar amount flash, and I thought, oh, that's weird. And then the next time I went to use it, it wouldn't let me. And I had to go back
to the station to actually pass it. Basically, we had to walk. So basically, what had happened was that I don't think it tracked you going into the station. initially, but it tracked you coming out. Because when you go out, you do the same thing. You pass it over the thing.
Yeah.
It then tells you how much your fee was, because it charge you based on how far you go, not how long you were on the train.
Right.
And then it also tells you the remaining balance on the card, so you can kind of keep track of whether you need to reload it or not. In your case, I think what it did is that when you got out of the station, I think it tracked you that you went into that station initially. And so it thought that your card was still being used over at that station initially. So we had to walk actually through the Osaka terminal to get back to that one station and then back all the way around.
And some of the stations are enormous.
Oh, these are big places. And we'll talk about stations here in just a second, actually, because that in and of itself is a cool little thing here, too.
Yeah.
But the IC cards are super easy to load up. They had terminals where you would just see people just loading up the cards with mostly with cash and coins, never with a credit card. I never saw one with a credit card terminal.
That's true.
And all of them have the option to display in English. So if you don't read Japanese, don't worry. It even talks to you in English too.
And they were extremely easy to use.
Yeah, you just push the card in, you sell it, how much money you want to put on there. What would you say that I think if we had put like 10,000 yen, so about $100 on it, we could have gotten through the entire Japan trip for 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we started out with the 15 and then added 30, and then another point added 50, and then another point added another 10.
Yeah.
So I mean, by the end of the day, $100 would have pretty much covered us.
Yeah, I think
Except you discovered they could also be used.
They can be used in mini marts and at vending
machines.
So when you go to which is really kind of awesome. So like if you're at a train station, some of the machines said IC on it. So you put the card up to it, then you pick your item, you put the card in one more time, it'll tell you how much is left on the card, and then we'll dispense your item there for you, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And then you can use them also at some of the mini marts. We'll talk about mini marts here in a little bit too, because that's also a cool thing.
Yeah.
But you can use the IC cards in other places around the station as well. So they're kind of a multifaceted tool. So they're very useful to have, I think. But nothing beats putting coins into the machine. It really was just all worth it there.
Well, but I love the IC card because, once you put a decent sum of money on it, you just didn't have to worry about it again for days and days and days.
Yeah, we often were not worrying about it until we got through and we're like, oh, it's only got 1,000 yen left on it. We should probably reload it now.
Yeah.
And that's really when we started caring about it. But most of the days we just oh yeah, whatever, ding. And we just move on with our lives.
And just kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, super useful. So yeah, why don't we talk about stations?
Oh, you could live in one of those stations, just find an empty
depending on one of the stations. Now I learned here later on that we went through three of the largest stations in Japan. Nagoya is the largest station, Kyoto is the second largest, and Shinjuku is the third. So we went through three of the largest Japanese train stations. And Shinjuku, yes, is a very large station. Kyoto is a very big station. Nagoya, we weren't in it all that much, but it's a big station apparently.
I hadn't realized that, but it had a wonderful grocery store. That I think the grocery store. Oh, is that in Osaka?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the stations there is everything.
Now, mind you, depending on the size of the station too. So
in the bigger stations, you could buy your groceries. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. So when we got to Osaka the first time, we got off at I think we got off basically nearby the JR Osaka line exit, because that's where the JR station was at.
Right.
And then we kind of hopped our way over there, but we basically, while we were in the station, saw mini marts and now mind you, JR Osaka is a big station too.
Yeah.
But basically, we later discovered that there's an entire mall of just restaurants and small little shops underneath the road.
Yeah.
Going
to the station. So not only do you get to stay dry.
Mm-hmm. You could get breakfast.
You could get kimonos. You could
souvenirs,
get clothes, get your dry cleaning done.
Mm-hmm.
There was even a dentist in one of them.
And how many times did we see a Starbucks in those stations?
Probably all love the Starbucks. Except I got news. Nobody should be making a sweet potato frappuccino.
Yeah, we saw some weird flavors. But again, you know what? I would give that a try if I was into coffee. Mind you, to at least once say, yeah, I had a really weird flavored coffee. Really? How weird was it? Sweet potato.
Oh, that's true.
I
missed out on my opportunity.
Well, there was also a sweet potato ice cream as well, so I don't think we're missing out too much.
Yeah, they had taro, but the taro was pretty good.
Yeah. But no, so again, depending on the size of your station, they're going to have a lot of stuff added onto it. Now, as an example, when we were in Tokyo, we often exited at the Minowa station, which was nearby our Ryokan. That didn't have any sort of mini mart or restaurants attached to it.
Yeah.
But it almost every kind of smaller station was kind of like that. Like when we got off at Fuji Inari, there was a smaller station, but it did have a mini mart just right around the corner, and had restaurants on the other corner. So those were very easy of access.
Yeah.
And then when we got to larger stations like Shinjuku and Akihabara, those had literally mini marts in the platform section. Like you could go to a mini mart thing in the platform section while you were waiting for your train if you wanted.
Yeah. And drugstores and
then if you got the bigger I think pretty much the bigger it was, the more things were attached to it.
Even 100 yen stores.
Yes, there was a Daiso store in one of them. We got to we were in the JR Osaka. There's literally an Accor hotel there.
Yeah.
A Swiss hotel. And then Kyoto also had a hotel attached to it, and luxury hotel even. So the Nagoya, Shinjuku was supposed to have one, but we never saw it. But that was also a really big station too, with lots of floors.
A huge station.
And then there's restaurants inside of them as well. The Kyoto one had literally a department store, I think, in it at one point.
Yeah.
So like the bigger the stations, the more stuff that's going to be in it. And again, my favorite one is still going to be the JR Osaka, where we got off the train and we were really like, hey, I think that's a grocery store. And we walked in, holy shit, this is a full grocery store.
It was a nice grocery store.
Maybe a little bit on like the slightly smaller side of the grocery store, as we would consider it here in America.
But really,
but no, a fully stocked,
high end.
You could buy your groceries grocery store.
Yeah,
like veggies, deli, like candies, pre-made stuff, like
a meat cutter.
Yeah, no, full service grocery store.
Good stuff.
In the station. Before you even passed out of the platform. So you actually had to pay to get into the station to go grocery shopping and then get out if you wanted to.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It was. The stations to me were this wondrous thing. You had, not just coffee, but choices of brand and some wonderful restaurants and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Again, in our case, because we're traveling a lot of the time, we always ate at restaurants.
Right. Because
we also wanted kind of the local cuisine and we wanted the local flavor. Go by a station. There's restaurants near there.
We had fantastic breakfast at the station in Nara.
Oh, absolutely. And then I think we were in Nagoya when we had the pasta. That was just a part of a hotel.
Yeah.
Or an office building that was nearby, that was literally attached to
a station.
To the Nagoya station. So like that had just a huge concourse of stuff there too.
Yeah.
So again, stations, awesome.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our hotels. Now, our hotel arrangements here, when I chose the hotels, I chose ryokens for two different reasons. Primarily because they were the traditional style of hotels that were in Japan. Again, small rooms, shared public bathroom spaces, tatami mat floors. Like, I wanted the authentic experience, but they also tend to be on the more cheaper side of hotels in Japan as well. And so in our cases, that was the predominant factor in choosing what I chose throughout our stay. That being said, if there were capsule hotels, going back next time, I would choose some capsule hotels along the way too.
We had a wonderful capsule hotel experience.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that they were traditional because, one of the things that makes Japan distinct is it's Western while being Eastern, and
it's very Eastern with a lot of Japanese flavor, or it's maybe even the opposite way around too. A lot of Western with a lot of very Eastern flavor to it.
Yeah, so staying in the traditional hotel, sleeping on the mats and in the traditional style, seemed really fitting, and I think it actually enhanced for me. I think it actually enhanced the experience.
Oh no, I mean you got a kick out of the wardrobe all the time.
Oh yeah.
I love the shared bath because I think it's such a brilliant place to do it, and
Yeah.
you know, I mean, even from just like a logical standpoint, if you're building a building and you have to put in, mind you, yeah, you can put toilets on every floor, but they're all centrally located probably. And if you have all your major water going into the basement,
Oh, this is much. It's from
Probably
a
much more
construction cost. It's much more efficient.
oh, absolutely.
But it makes sense too. I mean, the bathroom is the least used room.
Mm-hmm. And if it's on the very bottom floor, as most cases were, it can't rise up and it can't fall down, so it's stuck at the bottom already.
Well, and there you're talking about the public baths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah,
it absolutely made sense.
And most of our ryokans were very nice places, with the exception of I think Kyoto again was on the lower end side of that, but
Still great location.
it's still a very good location at the end of the day. And even in Tokyo, even though it was I think the smallest ryokan that we were in at any given time,
I actually really enjoyed that.
yeah,
that
that
one.
place was awesome.
Yeah.
Would totally do. And again, like there are Western hotels in Japan. They're plentiful and bountiful throughout the area, but they do also tend to cost a little bit more.
Well, and I can have that experience anywhere.
Yeah, and that was my thing too. Like, I want the authentic experience. I don't want an experience. I want the authentic experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, ryokans I think are a great way to go through there if you have to. But speaking of ryokans and how much they cost, let's talk about the money in Japan.
Well, let's talk about first off. Nobody takes your credit card.
Yeah.
I mean, very few places, department stores, very few places took credit cards. So it's a cash-based society.
Yeah, very, very much a cash-based sort of society.
So my next tip is show up with your money. And I know I bank with Bank of America, but I understand it's available with a lot of banks that you can order online if you have your account automated. You can order online foreign currency. And I was able to order online. I could either pay a FedEx fee or I could go pick it up in the branch. And I opted to pick it up in the branch because I don't want FedEx delivering money.
No, I would feel very nervous about that, too.
Yeah. So, but I got my yen up front.
Yeah. And I got my yen while I was there. And at most points,
ATMs worked.
ATMs worked perfectly fine. And while they did kind of show what my balance was in yen and not USD, it was perfectly fine. You can do the math, essentially, which was not an issue at any particular point. So, but no, yeah, traveling in Japan, pulled out money, and very easy to do in Japan. Never had a problem with that at all.
The very few times that I was able to use a credit card, they tack on the 3% fee.
Mm-hmm.
So just know, even if you get somebody to take your credit card, you're going to pay the bill plus 3%.
Yeah, so maybe save it for the bigger purchases or the most expensive purchases if you have to, obviously.
Yeah.
You don't want to keep racking up those charges all the time. But
Yeah.
We had certainly an interesting journey with the money itself.
Yeah.
So basically the best way to break it down is that as of right now, the currency exchange is about 93 yen to $1 US. To make it as simple as possible for yourself, and this is very much true 20 years, maybe even like 10, 15, almost 20 years ago when I was buying stuff, Japanese stuff here in America, basically just assume, move the decimal point 2 places up, and that's what it costs. So if it's 1,000 yen, it's about $10.
So 100 yen store is a dollar store.
Yeah. So that was the best way we found to do it. We found the coins were fun and interesting.
I'm actually in the process of making earrings with the 50 cent or the are those $5 coins?
No, those were
50
cents.
Yeah, those are 50-cent coins.
So yeah,
they're very pretty.
So Japanese money when it comes in the coin form, they come in a 1 yen coin, which was the bane of existence in some cases, because they feel like plastic and they weigh next to nothing.
Yeah, it's basically a penny.
Yeah, and then there was what we later learned was a 5 yen coin,
It's not marked.
It's not marked. It's all brass and it's got a hole through it, kind of like the 50 yen one does.
Yeah.
There's a 10 yen coin that's very easy to get confused with the 100 yen coin.
Right.
And then you have your 50 yen coin, which is very silver, which is kind of a
Silver with
silvery-
flowers.
silver flowers and a hole in it. So in your case, they'll make great earrings and jewelry.
Yeah.
And then the 1 yen coin, which was my favorite coin. Because 1 yen coins were basic, 1 yen, and they have a 500 yen coin as well.
Yeah, they
So
do.
there's 100 and 500 yen coins, which I thought were awesome because, like, they're small and easy. They're like carrying a $1 bill, but we were carrying, some cases, like 10 to 15 of them in some cases.
But bring a coin purse.
Oh, yeah.
Because we both were filling up little coin purses with coins. Because a lot of times when you get your change back, everything below
1,000 yen was all in coins.
Was all in coins. So everything below $10 was in coins.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, we had little coin purses, and those were right there next to my wallet, and they were very easy to use. And in some cases, you could pay for a full thing with just coins. Like, a number of times we went to the mini marts to get food, water, and drinks. We could just pay with coins that we had collected throughout earlier in the day. So it was very, very, very useful. Do recommend that you keep track of your numbers.
Yeah.
So that everything gets read out as numbers, so you can see it very easily what you have to pay. But sometimes they just tell you how much it is, and you have to try to like figure it out. So do try to like their scheme for understanding numbers is very similar to ours. You just got to know what the length. You just got to get that logic in there. But even at worst, if you were just able to just do 1 through 10 or 0 through 9, you should be okay.
You should be okay because then it's just June. Just
yeah. So I mean, or even in general, if you were like paying for a large thing, it was like maybe like, it was like 321 yen. It's like san ni each. So you could like just count like 3, 3, 2, 1, and they would, and that's enough to get by at the end of the day. I think maybe the Japanese would appreciate it if we counted their numbers the correct way, but
they're pretty understanding.
Nobody told us
appreciated
otherwise.
The attempt, yeah.
I think they appreciated more the attempt than anything else. Like I think whenever we ordered something, we always want to order like 1 or 2, but we always went like ni or each or san or she. Like we were trying at the bare minimum. But we had to like point to the pictures.
Yeah.
So yeah, bring a coin purse with you. Coins very bountiful, very useful. Vending machines always take them.
Yep. And vending machines, they sell beer.
They sell coffee.
They sell everything.
They sell plum wine.
Yes, sake. There's
some of them sell tobacco in them as well.
And I'm talking like out on the street.
Just as you're walking by the station.
Yeah.
Yeah. Full on advertisements on the side of it saying beer, Asahi beer.
Right. So no need to pay the bum to run in and get you a 6-pack when you're 14 years old.
Well, again, I mean, like Japanese are typically ones that follow the rules. You don't want to. Yeah. Again, like very much Japan is very much a society of we don't want to make a problem for other people, or we don't want to bother other people at all. So I mean, as a child, like you're told, you don't do that, and they just don't do it.
Yeah. Because
you also, at the same time, as much as you don't want to be a problem, you don't want to be a problem child either. You don't want to be the kid that's, known for being, acting out and stuff like that, unless that's your intent.
Yeah.
So
vending machines everywhere.
Oh, so convenient, though.
But everywhere.
Well, you know what the other thing we found everywhere? Mini marts.
Mini marts. And mini marts with full microwavable meals, like really beautiful, nice
that they'll microwave
meals.
For you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So, I wager that in Japan, only like 2 or 3 times out of the day 2 or 3 times out of the week do you actually cook food in your own kitchen.
I think you're probably right.
Assuming you have a big enough space for a kitchen, or you even have a kitchen.
Yeah.
Because again, remember, you don't want to cause an issue for anybody else, and while you're in Japan, so you may not take up your apartment might be all of 300 square feet, or maybe 400 square feet, and that's including the bathroom. So a decent sized hotel room in America, but
yeah,
yeah,
and that's all of your living space. And I will say, the Rio cans, one of the features that they had were microwaves.
Almost all of them had a microwave or a refrigerator of some sort.
Accessible.
That you could use and had easy access to if you needed to. So the mini marts were in Family Mart, Mini Mart, Lawson's, 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven, you couldn't shake a stick without hitting a 7-Eleven.
Well,
pretty close.
Well, 7-Eleven is now primarily owned by Japan, so so by a Japanese firm, which is now the 7-Eleven Holdings. But 7-Eleven's everywhere, and good food inside the 7-Eleven too. All very reasonably priced as well. Which we found our favorite peach water at. We also found one of my favorite things were they had the tall boys of Coke inside there, like a big tall boy that were, again, there's a single dollar, as where if you bought the bottle you'd pay 125 yen. So those were very useful, I thought.
The peach water was awesome. I tried a couple of other flavors, not as good.
I also like that we could get a 2-liter of water for about $1 every day. Full 2-liter refrigerated water every single day.
Which we did because we were walking a lot.
Oh, yeah, no, we were walking an awful lot here, and we were able to do quite a bit of that here. And the 200 yen, again, this 2-liter bottle of water, which I could just slap on my backpack.
Yeah.
Super useful every single day. We probably drank at least one of those every day. And then I always had an extra bottle left around in the ryokan that I would have tried to fill up with water somewhere.
Yeah.
Because all the water was very drinkable.
Well, yeah, and the ryokans, most of them even had a water dispenser that you could use.
Mm-hmm.
And the important thing there is, I know we were there in September, and it was hot.
Oh, very warm.
It was in the 90s, and we were sweating quite a bit.
And the water really did help. I mean, we sweated a lot of the water back out, but the two of us, we probably drank about 1.5 liters of water each day, at minimum. And I think that's a good thing at the end of the day, to stay very hydrated, especially as we were walking around an awful lot, too.
Yeah.
But that brings us to another point here, because we had luggage.
We had luggage. So I had read somewhere, this goes to don't believe everything you read.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere that Japanese people did not appreciate roller luggage because it inconveniences others. It gets in people's way, and
it's just not polite to have. You don't want to bother other people with it.
Right. It's awkward on trains.
Mm-hmm.
People trip over it. And so we did backpacks. I tried to do a sling that was a 55-liter sling. It did fit all my stuff, but it was too heavy.
It just wasn't comfortable for you at the end of the day, if memory serves me.
I couldn't walk very far with it.
But thankfully, in Japan, what we later learned, even as we were just kind of walking around just on the first day, there's a lot of people with roller bags out there.
Everywhere.
And we saw a number of shops that were had it fully available to use and
we
to
bought
buy.
one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we bought a roller bag. And what we found were that people were taking them back and forth to work, the smaller ones. So that was something where absolutely misinformed. The roller bags are just fine. They do not trail them behind them, is the one thing.
Yeah, always to your side. Usually.
Always to your side, even walking parallel with you, is the thing. So you don't drag it behind you; you walk it alongside you.
Or you can drag it behind you if it's not a very busy street. But the second it gets busy, you would want to carry it with you. And so that's one of those times in which you want one that has the multi-directional wheels, which a lot more are coming out with nowadays. Even me working in hotels, I see a lot more of those more frequently now.
Yeah, so that was the one caveat with that, but that for me was much easier, and at the end of the day, it actually helped us get stuff home.
So what I might even recommend is that go to Japan, buy one, and then use it to help transport stuff back home with you. Because we found it useful because we brought sake, and I had a bunch of boxed items that didn't obviously want to get damaged in our softer stuff. But I think that actually worked out really well for us at the very end of the day.
Yeah, so we bought a hard-sided piece for $50.
Yeah, no, and it's about 29 inches.
It's a 24. It's a 24.
Oh, I thought it was at least a 29.
No, it's not that big. It's pretty wide though.
Oh,
we're sitting here looking at it.
It's a very nice box, though, and it has a nice locking system on it, too. I had a traditional backpacker's backpack, which for me, considering that I brought about, including the clothes I was currently wearing, about 6 days in total worth of clothing on me, but I was only ever packing about 5 of that. And a lot of those were just like, some of that was like 3 days worth of 4 days in total worth of pants, 6 days worth of shirts and socks for every single day. I actually had plenty of extra room still available in mine if I absolutely needed it.
Yeah, so that's a 65-liter backpack. And I will say these are Cotopaxi, which is a brand that works with indigenous people doing job training.
Yeah. So a very cool company.
So their logo is Gear for Good. And we each had backpacks that were theirs. I mean, small backpacks.
Yes.
So day packs that were theirs. And then my sling was theirs. You also brought the sling, which you also packed stuff in to get home.
Yep.
Because you can check 2 bags coming home. And then you had the big backpack.
Yeah, and I found the backpack very useful. I obviously didn't fill all the spaces up. I imagine if I were of the female variety, I might have more stuff in there, maybe like more shoes and other stuff like that, maybe.
Well, even in the 55-liter sling, I was able to get 3 pairs of shoes.
Your shoes and different like outfits.
I had all my clothes, and I, much like you, I had 4 pairs of pants, a combination of capris and two long pants, 2 capris, and then I had 7 t-shirts.
Yeah. So.
And a waterproof jacket. Definitely need the waterproof jacket because it did rain.
It rained twice, but I mean, like, it wasn't like a torrential downpour.
It wasn't heavy.
Right? It wasn't that bad. But again, you never know what'll come up against you.
But I mean, I had a week's worth of underwear and was able to get that all in too.
Oh yeah, no. Again, I worry that I think actually at the end of the day, the backpack might have been a little bit more of a struggle for especially people on the train because I know I took up a lot more space with it on in a lot of cases. Yeah. But I mean, if I had the option between the backpack or a roller bag, I mean, like either one is perfectly doable at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I absolutely found that to be pretty useful tools for that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the restaurants we ate at?
Okay, so we had
everything.
We had phenomenal luck with restaurants, though, and with you mostly doing the choosing, you did a wonderful job.
Basically, anything that looked good, we ate at.
Well, but we ate at a number of places that had really a counter service, very, very small.
Yeah, very small, maybe a dozen seats, if that. I
mean, I don't think I've ever seen in the U.S. a restaurant that small.
No, and mind you, like when we say small, like remember how we were describing a hotel room of like maybe like 400 square feet with the bathroom? That's the size of the That's the size of the entire restaurant, including the kitchen, which takes up half that space. So
yeah.
So like the bar, I mean, how many times do we eat at a bar? Probably at least almost half. It
felt almost half the time. Yeah.
We did it with the ramen, the Mexican food, the tonkatsu. We also did it
the second night we were there
in Kyoto. Yeah, we ate it quite often.
A few, yeah.
Which was really cool at the end.
Those were the best meals.
Oh, absolutely. But there's like probably about like a billion restaurants in Japan, just all tiny little itty bitty restaurants.
We kind of avoided chains.
Oh, we definitely avoided chains. I think the largest one we ate at was the one where we had the pasta in Nagoya, and then another one where we had
the place where you got the little tickets.
The little tickets, and one of them had probably about like maybe 30, 35 seats in it. Yeah. Maybe. But that also brings us to a good point here, the little ticket system.
Yeah.
Some restaurants, basically, you pay for your meal up front. And we never paid a tip on anything. They won't take a tip. That's not acceptable to do there.
But a lot of the time we paid for the meal up front.
Yeah, we paid a lot for the meal up front. And in some cases where the ramen, another day we ate in Osaka, which I think is the day we came back from Nara, I think.
Uh-huh.
Because we didn't have the hole in the wall tonkatsu, I think, until the last day.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that until we came back from the car festival.
Yeah.
Which I still tell people to this day. It
was so awesome.
But yeah, some of the restaurants we went to, you had to buy a ticket beforehand, and then you gave the ticket to a waitress or the chef, and then they cooked your food from there. They would not take orders.
They weren't taking orders.
No.
You were buying your ticket was the order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the one in Osaka at least had an English variation on it, so that was like super useful.
Yeah.
The one in Tokyo, though, when we went to go get the ramen, had like no English version on it.
And he spoke no English. He finally got somebody to help us.
Oh, I think finally somebody came back. Maybe
yeah.
she had been on break or something, but no English language skills and no ability to, and us with very limited Japanese skills.
And a lot of the times, the chef is the person also taking your order. I mean, it's a 2-person shop. 2,
maybe 3 people at most. If it's got a second floor, which they go up to drop food off up there too.
Yeah.
A lot of the restaurants very cool. First day with the melon bread.
You knew about melon bread. I didn't know about melon bread. And we had melon bread a couple of times after that. Mm-hmm. But so let's back up. Soft serve ice cream is everywhere. Everywhere.
Now, mind you, it's not like here in the States where like it's a giant machine that's like, constantly doing soft serve. In Japan, there's single serve little things, and they put it into a machine, and then it spits it out like it would be like from a giant machine.
Yeah, so soft serve in different flavors. So our first day, mm-hmm. we had the opportunity to have. You knew about melon bread.
I already knew about melon bread. Melon bread is the shit.
Yeah. So I knew nothing. And you said, we have to do this. And it was a place that put the soft serve in the melon bread.
Yeah, so they kind of cut it a little bit in half like a sandwich. It was basically like eating like an ice cream sandwich. Yeah, but instead of a cookie, it was melon bread.
Oh, that was
awesome. On a hot day, like that was just perfect, wasn't it?
That was awesome.
What other snacks did you like while we were in Japan?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of things that were pretty tasty. First of all, the pastry in the 7-Eleven, which I was getting pastry and yogurt mm-hmm. For breakfast, was
excellent.
So well done. It was not what 7-Eleven pastry is here.
No.
It was so well done. So that was one comment. They do sandwiches differently.
Oh, the packaging for the sandwiches?
Yeah,
I've seen that here in the States before.
Well, I've seen the packaging, but there's a different selection of
a lot more variety.
A lot more variety. I had a coffee sandwich at one point, which is sort of like a tiramisu.
Yep, I had a lot of BLTs and lettuce and ham or something like that. A lot of cases, very good. Again, keep in mind that a lot of these places also have just meals you can take out as well, like full on dinners
in a
for
nice
like
little reheatable tray.
$7 or $8 you take with you, or you can heat it up, and then by the time you get home, it's cooled off enough that
ready
you can
to
just
eat.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. In terms of snacks, of course, we got the 10 different flavors of Kit Kats.
Yeah.
But not a lot of candy.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the candy that they had was a lot of their traditional sweets, which it's like a bean curd almost. Like
that's true.
For me, that's not my cup of tea. At the end of the day, I would.
It's a different texture thing.
Yeah, and I'm a big texture eater at the end of the day, and when I go to eat something, I want to be able to like play with it in my mouth. This would just kind of like dissolve in my mouth and like fall apart immediately. It was just like.
But dessert's not really kind of a big thing there.
No, it's really not.
But then snack foods are.
No, yeah, snack foods are. Like, we saw a lot of places that just had candy bars and stuff like that. A number of just basic candy shops and things like that that were there.
Those little flat cookies, which are actually quite savory.
Yes.
Those were good. We didn't actually do a lot of snacking, though. We did.
No. We tried some drinks whenever we had the chance to.
Yeah.
Like, we tried their Pepsi Clear, which they called Pepsi Next. Mm-hmm. Not a fan of that. Because it felt like wasn't really drinking something, but I knew I was drinking something.
Yeah, it was had kind of an odd flavor to it,
like an almost non-existent flavor.
They're not big on sodas, though.
No, they're really not. Actually, I mean, like with the exception of like
I will say beer because I will have a cold one,
mm-hmm.
and
I had a little bit here and there too.
Yeah. So they have 2 main brands of beer, but then they do have foreign beer available as well. We saw somebody ordering a Corona.
Mm-hmm. Thankfully, in the Mexican
restaurant.
Yeah.
But I saw Heineken being served in a couple places too.
Jack Daniels is apparently a big thing. Like if you can if you could do a shot of Jack Daniels, you're like, because there's apparently like this myth and legend about Jack Daniels in Japan. So, which would have been funny because I can do a shot of Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
That's not the end of the world for me. But like a lot of that beer, again, for me, I'm not a climatized beer person. Like I'm like I think there was maybe one or two which didn't have this strong aftertaste to it that was like okay for me at the end of the day. Like I would drink that if I knew what it was.
Yeah, so I no light beer served. I didn't see any light beer served.
No.
It was all more of a sort of an ale type, although not real heavy.
Oh, and if you go to Japan, if you're into soda like I am, they don't have a diet soda there at all. They call it Zero. So a Coke Zero is basically a Diet Coke at the end of the day.
Well, and we have some Zero products here, but they weren't the same.
They don't quite taste the same. There's something different about them, but
there is.
Just as a like thought bubble here.
Yeah.
Try the flavored waters.
Try the flavored waters. Flavored waters were great. Pastry sold broadly everywhere, including donuts. We even saw cosmic donuts, which really looked like they were tie-dyed.
Oh yeah, no, very cool tie-dyeing.
So we saw just a lot of places had pastry, and there were quite a few pastry shops, more than you have here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that was kind of cool.
I thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, any other tips and tricks you think you might have?
Well, I think just in general, and
because we're still going to talk about like things we were told versus things we actually saw.
Okay. Then we'll go. Then we'll.
So let's go
dive
into that. So So we obviously we did a lot of studying kind of before that because we kind of wanted to know what we were getting into when we got there, and one of the things again I'll say, and we've talked about it. Obviously, the language barrier was clearly an issue. We highly recommend taking some sort of class beforehand, or
we did Pimsleur CDs.
Yes, do something at bare minimum because that did come in very handy.
Yeah, at least be able to count.
Yeah. I was saying, excuse me and sumimasen all the time, and no, I'd never heard anybody else say that once. We got the impression that was like a common thing that everyone said for any particular reason. Yeah,
so a number of the things I'd viewed on YouTube said, oh, you have to sumimasen, you're going to be saying that all the time. And we didn't hear it. We used it, but we didn't hear it.
Never heard it. And
sumimasen is excuse me.
It's like excuse me or I'm sorry. Like
you do say it when you're getting off the trains.
Yes.
And people will move for you.
Yeah. We heard it very infrequently, if almost never.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things there.
Oh, it is also how you call a waiter.
Yes, because it's excuse me.
Yeah.
Very much like wakarimasu or wakarimasu, which is I understand. It's also I know, or yes, I understand, or I understand what you're talking about. Like so a lot of the words so a lot of the words get used fairly frequently for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it makes sense when you think about it how we use our words the same way as well.
Yeah.
So excuse me might be, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be in your way, or I'm sorry I did that, or excuse me, I need you to come over here so I can need your attention. So that makes perfect sense here. What did you see that you were told that you didn't quite expect?
Okay, so I was told that tattoos were an issue, and I was concerned about that with the public bath because I do have one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was also told that colored hair was an issue, and even one of the YouTube videos was a dialogue between two young people who talked about having to recolor their hair black to keep their jobs. So I was surprised. If I got anything, I got in a couple of situations where somebody thought it was cute.
Oh, kawaii. Yep.
Kawaii. Because I have some blue and some pink underneath. It's not real visible, but it's there.
Yep.
Neither one of those were issues, even in the very conservative hotel with all the older women. Nobody cared.
Nobody really cared at all.
Nobody cared.
No. And I think that's again, when it came to the tattoos here, I got told that as well, that some places will not allow you in there if you have a lot of tattoos. And the first place we went to saw a guy with like just covered in tattoos and no real issue at all when he was in the public bath. So clearly he was in the hotel with no real issue at all. I mean, like,
and it's because they thought that the tattoos were associated with the Yakuza.
yeah, but the Yakuza have done a lot better job. Much like the American mafia here at the end of the day, which is the best example to compare the Yakuza with. Like, they're very much aware of the notion here that, like, you know what, we don't need to stand out that much anymore because we're just painting a huge spotlight on us. Like, it used to be a custom where, like, if you did something wrong, you had part of your finger chopped off.
Yeah.
And they very much have moved away from that now because obviously that's a big telltale sign that, oh, that guy's a Yakuza. Let's follow him and watch him, what he does. You know, like and obviously in a more civilized sort of time where we have a lot of that tracking and a lot of people being very visible and seeing a lot of stuff here and people knowing what the telltale signs are. You know, now it's very much the notion that, like, you don't want to advertise what you are if you don't have to.
Well, but another comment I would make would be that as you moved north, because we started in Osaka, which is at the south, and then Kyoto, but as you moved north, it seemed to get more liberal.
Oh, yeah, I could see that very much. It got a lot more...
The pace also speeded up quite a bit.
Oh, especially in Tokyo. Like,
yeah.
But again, in Tokyo, we saw a number of people with different colored hair. It was almost a norm, which kind of reminds me now that when I see a lot of, like, Japanese animation, you see a lot of, like, blues, green, purrs, red, like, and you think, like, well, they're not... In a lot of cases, the blues, reds, purples, and other colors like that are kind of meant to denote different shades of black hair, much in the same way, like, green, orange, blonde. There's also really kind of to denote kind of like different shades of brown in hair as well. Much the same way with like red is. In Japan, it was like, and I knew that going into Japan, and I saw a lot of people in Japan with like different colored hair just like walking by. It was like, oh, okay, well apparently it's not that huge of an issue.
Yeah, not a big issue.
No.
Then there's the flip side of things that are. In Japan, first off, a lot of the women do wear dresses and skirts.
Yep,
and not short.
No, very much covering like to the knee, if not below.
Oh yeah, but the other thing is they do not show cleavage. So if you're going to Japan in your woman, I would say really dress conservatively on top.
Yeah, I could totally agree with that. Never saw anybody with like short. I mean, I saw a couple girls with like short shorts.
Yeah.
But even then, they were still like kind of like mid thighs, even
longer than you'd see much shorter, much more out there here.
Not a lot of spaghetti straps at all.
You rarely actually saw collarbones. I mean, really.
Yeah, we mentioned that a couple times.
We were noticing that on trains. The women were dressed very practical shoes. Admire that.
Oh yeah, that's another thing we got to say if you're going to Japan. We got the impression that you take your shoes on and off in a lot of places. That was not always the case in a lot of days. Like, I don't think we ever even took off our shoes until we got to Kyoto even.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were in Osaka, we went, oh, well, that was a bunch of... Because you got told, bring socks, wear shoes with socks, but wear shoes you can slip on and off.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so shoes with socks, that means no sandals. And I thought, oh, that was a bunch of bull. And then we got to Kyoto where you really did. I mean, even in the Starbucks, you took off your shoes. Mm-hmm. So I think when we were going to shrines, depending on or inside temples.
Oh, definitely inside temples. If we were walking kind of around shrines or into some of the other buildings like the castle, I think we had to take our... Did we? I don't think we had to take our shoes off in...
Not in the castle, so not where you went upstairs.
No, not upstairs, no. Yeah.
But in a lot of the shrines where you were staying on a single floor, you were taking off your shoes. They either had cubbies or more frequently we found they actually handed you a plastic bag.
Yeah.
And you put your shoes in the plastic bag and carried them.
It was very much true of some parts of Nara as well. Not a great deal of it, but a lot of one or two of the museums I think made us take our shoes off.
Yeah. But it was
not very common.
Not very common. So yeah, the socks are a thing. If you wanted to wear sandals, you could just bring a pair of socks though in a purse.
Yeah,
or in a bag,
like flip flop kinds.
Yeah.
I I brought what we probably would conservatively call skater shoes because I thought those were very easy to get on and off, and I've always had good flavor walking around them for long periods of time. But they're very loose on my feet because they're designed to be flipped on and off as easy. And while I didn't find those uncomfortable after a certain point, like, I really just wished I brought my tennis shoes with me.
Yeah.
Which would have been, I think, a whole lot more comfortable. And at the end of the day, like, pulling them on and off, I think, would have been much easier, even if I had to lace them up. So don't be afraid to bring shoes that lace up at all.
Or attach. I mean, this isn't an airport. And I
also
think
comfortable socks.
Nice
thick socks if you have.
Nice thick socks. I think I had some thinner slip-ons, but I knew they were thinner, and I was wearing them doubled up, and that worked.
I don't think either of us came back without blisters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were walking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing to remember is we were walking on cobbled streets at times, cobbled sidewalks at times,
dirt roads.
A lot of sort of tiled sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of uneven surfaces.
Yes.
So really good shoes.
Just good shoes in general, like a good pair of just like running shoes. Again, I have a pair of running shoes, or even just boots might be even more comfortable even then, especially if you're doing a lot of hiking up and down stuff. So again, we highly recommend comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
So, what other kind of myths or advice did you get that you did not ring true at all?
I think that the food would be very spicy, and a lot of it would be
fish.
Yeah.
Like, I got the impression going to Japan that I was going to be eating a lot of fish. I think
fish was always an option.
Fish was always an option, but rarely did we ever actually eat fish. We ate a lot more pork, chicken, and beef in a lot more cases. Yeah. I think actually. I mean, I don't think there were any day. I think the only real day that we started eating fish was definitely definitely at Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
I think we had we had like a seafood tempura. We were in Tokyo after Disney Sea. But even then, we didn't eat a whole lot of fish.
Yeah, we didn't. Fish was always an option, but there were other options there too.
Lots of rice. We always ate rice.
Miso
soup.
Yeah.
We always had rice as well. It was almost always a part of the meal.
Yep. But I mean, also under the impression, I think that there wasn't as much variety to Japanese food as there is. There's a tremendous variety.
Well, again, we never had the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, the whole trip. So tremendous variety.
In food, and very good, very excellent food. I mean, it makes me kind of want to go back and watch Iron Chef to see what they make in Iron Chef, because, like, there's a lot of food in Japan to eat, and even if you just do, like, the street food kind of stuff here, there's a lot of it there too. That is very
a lot of street food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and there was no problem with the street food. I love the street food.
No, the street food was
do it
excellent.
Again. We'd absolutely do it again.
Yeah,
I almost waited. And again, I don't think people go to actually. You might even get an apartment that doesn't have a kitchen just so you can eat out every single day. I'm sure there's got to be some sort of cost-benefit analysis to that, the eating out.
Well, I think their idea of a kitchen and our idea of a kitchen are different things.
Oh, very different, absolutely.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else here might be interesting topics that I've read.
Well, I mean, other things to keep in mind. I'm 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
You're
I'm 6'3".
Yeah. So we were tall. You have problems with doorways.
Some doorways I had problems with, yes.
I didn't have problems with doorways, but I'm quite blonde, and so we did get noticed.
Oh, we I don't want to say we stuck out like a sore thumb.
We were noticeable,
but we were quite noticeable. I mean, like,
and really, until we got to Tokyo, we weren't seeing very many tourists, even in Fuji, really,
or even in Osaka. Like, we saw a couple here and there, but I don't think we saw any other foreigners at the Kishiwada festival at all.
A couple, but very few.
Very few. Very infrequent.
And that's people missing out, because that was fabulous. But as a whole, I expected, because we were going tourist places, Osaka, Kyoto.
You see a lot more tourists there.
Yeah.
It might also just be the off season for when tourists was there, which was kind of the intentional as well. Like, I didn't want to go during August, which I knew was just going to be blistering hot, but the summertime would probably be the good time to go. for a trip, and especially if you're from the States, because that's when a lot of school gets out and you have the huge amount of break. One thing, if we go back to women's fashion or just fashion in general, a lot of browns, blacks, whites, and navies. Not a lot of bright colors at all.
Yeah.
I think
it's very conservative.
I think in a lot of cases you were the most colorful person on that train, and that would have been just because you had a yellow and white striped shirt. And talk about the earrings the one day.
Oh, yeah.
And that was actually at Kishiwada, wasn't it?
That was at Kishiwada, yeah. So I have some black and white striped earrings that absolutely match a black and white striped T-shirt, and I had black pants on. And the women were all going crazy over the
matching earrings,
the matching striped earrings.
Yeah, like it was planned almost.
Like it might have been.
But no, yeah. Again, I rarely, I don't think I ever saw anybody with like even just a red shirt.
Yeah.
And the only time I saw that would have been when we were in Tokyo, where people were geared up for the rugby matches and were wearing maybe the jersey at one point. But even then, I didn't see a lot of people wearing the jersey. Again, a lot of very muted colors in fashion.
Yeah, but on the flip side, lots of fashion. So very trendy, very Tony, upscale.
Mm-hmm. A lot of accents, so like ruffles and lace and partly see-through
finishes. Yeah.
A
lot of the tulle skirt over a solid, so lots of sheer over solid skirts.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of gathered skirts.
Lots of like lace on like shoulders around the collarbone and stuff. Or even in some cases, you might have. I saw one woman that had what looked like a button-up dress shirt blouse. But then from basically from where the end of the cleavage would end and all the way up was all like a semi see-through material, so you could see all of her collarbone.
She was being risque.
Ooh.
Well, okay, so this brings up another thing. I have pierced ears, and really most women in the United States have pierced ears.
It's almost like a rite of passage.
Yeah. And there I was having problems finding pierced earrings. What few earrings, because most women don't wear them, what few earrings I was finding were clipped back. When I wanted to buy a pair of earrings, the woman very nicely changed them out for me, physically took off the clip and put on an ear wire. So they don't wear earrings. And no gauges. I didn't see a single gauge ear the whole time.
No, that one I wasn't not expecting. Gauges are not a very common thing in Japan. You'd think that they might be, but they're not.
They're not, and no nose rings or pierced noses.
No, again, very very uncommon. That would make you stand out, and you don't want to stand out in Japan.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think what else. Garbage cans are a fleeting thing in Japan. I think they're rare.
I can't find them.
I think they're slowly migrating to the United States, because we had a number of cases where we had garbage and we really wanted to throw it away, but we just had to hold on to it because there's not a garbage can anywhere.
But you don't. But on the flip side, there's no garbage on the street. None.
None. Absolutely, almost none at all.
What and
if there is some, it's like a cigarette butt or like a loose wrapper or something. It was very infrequent.
Yeah. To go along with that, one of the things I noticed really was how sort of maintenance workers, when you saw them, were treated and accorded. And I really thought that their positions were treated as though they were important, and the people performing them were performing them as though they were important.
Mm-hmm.
There was kind of an overall seeking of excellence vibe that you got in the strangest of places.
And again, that kind of goes back to Japanese culture in general. People who work in professions are expected to bring their A game with them. They're expected to give 110%. So them doing anything extra above and beyond what they're normally capable of is why you don't tip, because they're always giving 110%. They're not doing anything new or special at all. And everybody was always whenever we asked a question, they were very excited to talk to us, or very excited to oh, you're shopping with us? Excellent, let's help you. Or can we help you find anything? We went to go get. I distinctly remember our last day in Kyoto when we went to the studio park, which was so cool at the end of the day.
Yeah.
that we when we got done with the Tenryuji Temple, and we went back down the path, and we got to we were going to the train stop. We stopped at a place that had like these rice that had the seasoning on it.
Yeah.
And we thought that was really cool. And they were like, "Well, we have some if you'd like to buy it." We were like, "Oh yes, Let me show you. Let me show you all the rice stuff we have here." And everybody was kind of like that at a certain point too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of places were very excited to want to help you find something if you were trying to shop there. And the place where we got the hoppy jackets at.
Yeah.
Like she was very excited to show us all these different ones and very quick to help us out.
Yeah.
Very, very nice and kind as well. Everyone was and that was the one thing I was always expecting. Like I knew Japanese people were very subdued. Whenever we were talking with people, or whenever we were having conversations or meeting with people, everyone was very excited to almost meet and see us.
Well, and one of my favorite examples of that was actually at
in Nara with the children, I imagine.
Well, that was very cool because a group of kids, they're probably fourth, fifth graders.
I would say maybe
there.
fourth or fifth grade. They all had like big yellow tats.
Yeah, lined up to talk to us. But actually, in the foreign visitors office.
Oh
at
yes,
the
at the Kishiwada Cart Festival.
Yeah, they were all sorts of excited, and really they had everything set up to take your picture in a traditional hoppy.
And mind you, again, like had it been one of these things where like because we went straight forward for the covered area, which was a godsend. It really was the best thing in the world. But had we gone to the left, like we would have eventually stumbled upon that thing, and we would have learned a lot more real quick, much sooner. But I think if we didn't get to that covered area at first, we would have
it'd have been gone. Yeah,
yeah. Those places would have been like gone into the wind.
Yeah, and that was the thing. We just would have baked in the sun. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Shopping. One thing I want to say about shopping here: always spend $50.
Oh, okay. This has to do with the tax. So they do have like a
lot of duty-free places and a lot of places that
tax is 8 or 9%.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on what city you're in. So there is a value-added tax, and if you're spending $50, then it can be waived. They'll ask for your passport. So always have your passport with you, and they need the actual passport because what they need to do is write the number.
Fill out a form so they can explain why they're not paying those taxes.
Yeah, so they're keeping a log. And they have to have the number that was stamped on your entry stamp.
Yes, so they can track it.
Yeah. So in order to get the tax-free benefit, you do have to have your passport with you. They will staple those receipts. I got home and unstapled all those receipts. Oh,
so many receipts in mine too.
Yeah. They will staple the receipts onto your passport.
Right, if they can't staple it, they'll tape it.
They'll tape it, yep. And I have sort of a page problem in my passport because I'm running out of pages, so they're having problems finding places to put things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so if you spend $50,
in most of the places, we're always at least $50, and you get as a tax free.
I think the rule is $50 was my impression,
or 5,000 yen.
5,000, yeah. But I typically have no problem getting there, so.
No,
and mind you, we came back with we went with 2 pieces of luggage and came back with 5.
Yeah.
So just as a hint,
mm-hmm.
Because I came back with a zip out duffel that I was carrying on the plane when going. All I had was a tote bag.
And I had a similar duffel like that I hid in my original backpack with the intention of pulling that out later on to pack stuff into it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so we came back with stuff, good stuff.
Oh no, absolutely. And again, our intent was not to kind of load up with stuff along the way. I think the only thing I ever bought along the way was my deer little stuffed animal from
Nara.
From Nara, just because like it was really cute.
Well, it was Nara.
It was Nara.
I actually we came across in Nagoya a swap meet.
Oh, well, yeah, that was really cool. Just right in front of the temple.
Right in front of a temple.
And they had a whole bunch of stuff there too.
Oh my gosh! If we had been in Tokyo and I wasn't afraid of having to cart that stuff to 2 more cities because we still had Mount Fuji in Tokyo to go.
Oh yeah, you might have gone to town there.
I might have gone to town there because
they had a little bit of everything. There
were antiques. There were
yukatas. They had. Some guy was
some
selling
beautiful pottery.
Model trains. I saw a couple Ultraman and Kamen Riders toys there. Yeah, no, there was a gamut of a little bit of everything. It was a very cool little swap meet, and we actually met some people there that were doing like one I think was teaching at an art school, and another one was doing like was working at like some sort of bigger company or something. I think.
Well, Nagoya is a very industrial town with lots of businesses.
Yes.
And so there is an American school there.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of them was working at the American school, but that was an awesome little like flea market.
Oh yeah, no, very very cool. Something I will bring up. When you are traveling to different places and you're getting started for the day, so our example, Nagoya,
go early,
Tokyo and Kyoto, they have lockers at the train station.
Oh yeah,
take advantage of that.
So
even in Mount Fuji, we found one that we were able to just barely fit all of our stuff in.
Both pieces of luggage in a single locker.
Oh yeah, no, and it was, and again, I mean, like you can use your IC card to do it too. It was awesome.
Yeah, so we use lockers actually in Kyoto, in Tokyo,
Nagoya.
Yeah, so we use the lockers like day one, a number of the places where we went.
Yeah, and a lot of that was because we got there early in the morning, like maybe like 10 o'clock in the morning or so, and then went out and did stuff, and then obviously we didn't come back till later in the evening to go to our hotel at the end of the day.
So, and this brings up a good point. When I was mentioning a couple of minutes ago, start early. One of the surprises for me was that a lot of things closed at what I thought was a pretty early hour. A lot of things closed at 4, closed at 4:30. And so if you didn't get there by
a certain time, you were never going to do it.
Yeah, because we missed out on seeing
the Kyoto Imperial Palace. And
yeah.
And again, had we known that it closed that early, we might have actually changed our intentions on that day.
Yeah, so we discovered in a number of places that things close early. I mean, here you would expect a museum to close before 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so sort of plan what you're going to do starting early in the day so that you can... And conversely, some things don't open till 10 either.
Yeah, and that was the impression I got. So again, I was following a blog from a company that I watch a lot of material for, and they were basically telling me, he's like, yeah, nothing opens up before like 10 or 11 o'clock. It's a city of this guy who doesn't like to wake up until like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning to do stuff then either. But we saw that a lot of cases, like we would get up and start moving around at 8 o'clock, nothing was open. But
yeah,
that was a lot
true.
of restaurants and shops. But that's also kind of understandable. Like, if you know your business is not going to be there till like 11 or noon, like, you're going to wait. And especially if your restaurant doesn't open up until like the evening for dinner, which was probably a lot of restaurants there,
yeah.
Then yeah, you were not going to be there early or you were never going to show that you were actually physically there at all. You might mislead people if you were open or not.
Yeah. Yeah, so and, you know, I found timing for some things was a little off that way.
Mm-hmm.
Buses were easy to use.
Trains were very easy to use too.
Yeah, we didn't mention buses take IC cards as well.
Oh yes, and a lot of the ones we rode on were pay one time and then get off.
Yeah.
Or get on and then pay when you get off.
It was a flat amount. Yeah.
Very easy to use.
Yeah, very easy to use. So we and really. And in Kyoto, buses were kind of the way to go.
Well, yeah, because we had the trains there, and then for especially when we started visiting a lot of the temples and stuff, like it was just much easier to just take the buses to and from instead of having to trek all the way to a station in hopes that our station would get us back to where we wanted to go.
And I don't think we ever waited more than 5 or 6 minutes for a bus.
No, I mean the other option you could do as well is taxi. But those are taxi. There is like some rideshare services. They don't have an Uber, but they have something similar to that there. Because it's always being offered whenever I was looking up through Google Maps.
Uh-huh.
I was always being offered like, oh, do you want to do a ride share, or do you want to like get a ride? And we're like, don't really need to. I was surprised at how small the cars were.
That's true, and they seem narrower than ours.
Well, the streets are, I think, a lot more narrow, but yeah, a lot of the cars are very tiny.
Yeah. Or
was thinner at least. And also we did not, and we would also see just like parking lots just randomly placed, always with a timer on it too. And
odd parking, some odd parking methods. We saw parking garages with little turntables because
That go like up.
and they went up. Yeah, so like little car elevators.
And mind you, like, there were not like small ones that only went up like 3 or 4 floors. Like these went up like maybe like 10 to 12, maybe even 15 flights up.
Yeah, so
it's like
we saw
big
some very
elevator of that.
Yeah, so when you're in cities or even in the countryside, because
We
one
saw
of
that
the
in
ones,
Osaka.
yeah, well, we saw one in Kishiwada that I thought was very interesting.
Oh, that's
too.
true. We did see that one in Kishiwada too.
So there were some interesting sort of elevated parking, not structures, but equipment.
Yeah, so like you
That
would park
elevated your
underneath
car.
it, and then it would lift up, and then you could park another car underneath it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, that's a very, creative solution to a problem where you have a very limited amount of space, and there was, like...
Well, the street, and the issue here is that the streets are too narrow. Houses are set right on the street and not set back.
Nope.
So there isn't a driveway, and the streets are really too narrow to park on.
Well, you could always at least fit 2 cars down the street. Now, everyone kind of has to get out of the way when that happens, but you could
Yeah, you could fit a car in each direction, but you couldn't park a car.
No, I think you could almost park a car in some of those streets, some of the very narrow streets. Not all
Yeah.
the time. Not very common, at least. But like we saw a lot of like one-seater kind of trucks and cars that were very much on the side of the road
That's
in
true.
these little streets, and like you could still kind of walk around it, but it took up a fair amount of space.
Right, and so getting to modes of transportation and surprises. Having been to Vietnam, I've done quite a bit to Taiwan, which had lots of motorbikes, not as many as Vietnam. Vietnam has like everything's a motorbike.
Very little motorbikes here in Japan.
Yeah, and having spent some time in Cambodia and even Thailand, I was surprised because motorcycles, as much as they may be built there, because it's Suzuki and Yamaha and all these different names, you didn't see that many.
Yeah, what we did see, and by comparison, instead was bicycles.
Lots of bicycles.
Bicycles on the streets.
No helmets.
Umbrella holders.
Yeah, yes, umbrella holders are people just outright holding the umbrella.
A lot of bikes with children on the back of them too.
Yeah, lots of different actually types of children carriers. It'd be nothing to see a mom with 2 or 3 kids on the bike, but not riding on the handlebars in
like bassinets or some sort of like carriage.
Some sort of child carrier on the bike.
And they were just always on the streets here too.
Yeah.
And no bells alerting you that they were coming. And no, mind you, they weren't going very fast.
And then we were on the sidewalk where you're walking as well.
Yeah, and almost rarely, if ever, in the street.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember when the first time it happened in Osaka when we first landed.
And we were just very confused by it. It was like, why are they not on the street?
This is so unsafe because they're coming up right behind you. You don't hear them coming.
Or they're coming right in front of you too, and they're not alerting you to the presence.
Okay, but then one of the things we didn't touch on at all are the little yellow enunciators on the sidewalks.
Oh yes, to let you know what side of the sidewalk you should be on. So yeah, again, obviously Japan, huge place. They have a very big deal about, and that was even true for the trains. I mean, like when we got to busy stations for trains where people were coming on and off there, they had lines that kind of showed you lining up to the side of it, of the entrance, so that way people coming off would just come off, and
hordes of people, but
hordes
organized.
of people, beautiful organized chaos.
Yeah,
like nobody's telling you who to do, how to do what. Everyone's just lining up, just very patiently,
very
cooperative, and they're just like do. And we didn't. And now what I had heard is that during really busy lines and rush hour, that trains will have people pushing people. They'll have train staff pushing people on the cars. Now we never really saw that, but we were in a lot of cars that were very busy, very
well.
Very
and we
busy.
did have the one incident. Maybe this goes way back to the beginning of this particular conversation, but we had the one incident in which we got separated because I managed to get on the train, and you didn't.
And I didn't. Yes.
Yeah, you got like your watch got on the train, and
my watch partly got in, and then I quickly yanked it back out when I realized my arm had gotten caught.
And we were yelling through the door, "How many stops?"
Mm-hmm.
I was yelling 2 stops. You're like, "No, 3 stops."
Yes.
So two comments here. One is whenever you're getting ready to get on or off a train, know how many stops,
or what the exit name is.
Or what the exit name is. So that whoever you're traveling with has that information in case that happens to you.
Yeah.
Because I was momentarily terrified.
I was super worried too, because every single time I got off of somewhere, I kind of peeked my head out a little bit to make sure that you weren't there at all,
right,
as quick as I could, and then I would jump right back onto the train if I could.
Which goes to number 2, which is I made up my mind very quickly that what I would do is I understood you to say 3 stops. I would get off at the 3rd stop and stand right at that. I mean,
same door.
Stand at that same door. So that when you came,
you
wouldn't have to be looking for me. Oh yeah, no, we found each other like that. You were on the next train.
Yeah,
and we
caught each other pretty quickly. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a little bit of a terrifying incident because the worst problem for me was that I had the broadband adapter, so I had access to the internet. You didn't have one with you, so like you would have to find some sort of place, and if you could find Wi-Fi there. Oh, also, mind you, JR trains have Wi-Fi on them.
Yes.
So very useful trick to have. There's no fee for it to get online.
Yeah.
You just get on. You just kind of like give like your name and
it's
an
a basic.
email.
It's like being on a free airport Wi-Fi.
Or like at a hotel Wi-Fi. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very easy access for that.
So have a strategy for getting on and off trains.
Yes. If you're just going by yourself, I mean, like, I don't think it really matter. Yeah. But if you're going with other people, it's very important to make sure that you're traveling together with other people. Train seats. We saw a couple people sleeping on trains. But we also saw places in which it was, give up the seat for somebody elderly or people with children.
Which didn't happen.
No, we saw that. We saw that a few times. Not common though.
Not common. A lot of times you had younger people sitting in the specified special care seats.
Yeah.
So really, on most of the trains, aside from the trains that went a distance, most of the trains
are sit anywhere if you can find it.
If you can find it, and probably 70% of the time we were standing.
Yeah. And I don't really have a huge problem with standing either.
Yeah, not a problem.
At the end of the day, like it would be really nice to find one that had seats that we could find easily. But again, depending on when we were getting back, it might have also been the busy time to get it home. Sometimes that was an option, sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we ever got to sit on a bus. I think I got to sit once on a bus.
No, we sat on a bus before.
Okay.
In Kyoto on our way back from the temples.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we got to sit on the bus a couple times. Not all the time, but we got to sit down a couple times on buses.
Yeah. So the deal there being the public transportation is very excellent. Regular. Yeah, very regular. You could set a watch by it. It comes and goes. It's not going to wait for you. So if you're late for your bus, you're going to miss your bus.
We'll just catch the next one. Another bus will be by in another 5-10 minutes worse.
Yeah, you're not going to wait long.
Trains will come by in another 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. So it's wonderful, but again, wear comfortable shoes because you have a pretty good odds of standing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, I think my big takeaway from when I went to Japan and having a game plan every day was a very useful thing. But kind of also just asking around to people because again, like we wouldn't have known some things if nobody had told us about it, or if somebody had like recommended it to us, like. As much as like that one day we went to Akihabara, we saw sumo practice in the morning. As much as like I didn't really kind of want to go to old Tokyo, like it was still very cool at the end of the day.
I enjoyed it, and I absolutely fell in love with those carvings. Those were the nicest
wood carvings of all. Yeah. I mean, the second only. I think they were first, and then the second one might have been what would have had to have been the carts.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, again, like the Japan and their wood carving, like
wow,
beautiful.
Yeah.
No, and I think if you plan a trip to Japan, figure out the places you want to go and visit, and then look around to see what festivals are happening. Because I almost want to say if we had the option to go back to Kishiwada in the evening, like that would have been a hoot to go back in the evening.
I would have been totally down for that, except I think by the time we got done, we were tired.
Yeah, no, because we had been down there until about like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we visited the Kishiwada Castle and then the Osaka Castle. And by that point, by the time we got back, it was like 6-7 o'clock, almost at night.
But yeah, it would have been neat to see those being pulled through the streets with the lanterns on it. It would have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would have been running through the streets at that point. They would have been kind of like just meandering through them.
And you might have gotten a closer look at some of the carving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I kind of beguiled it initially, like, I wish we had a day in which we dressed up.
Yeah, so I was totally down to do that.
I was a little more like, it was a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I really want to do it. Because, again, not a lot of stuff fit me at all. And after we got through Mount Fuji and something fit me, I was like, oh, okay, well, something clearly fits me. So I'm a bigger guy and a lot of stuff doesn't fit me.
And what we're referring to is that there are all sorts of costume rentals in Tokyo, in every place we went.
A lot of yukata rental places.
Yeah, I shouldn't say costume. A lot of traditional wear rental places. Shops where you would get the yukata if you're a woman with the full obi. With
the full obi with the bow on the back and the geta sandals, like it's like we saw a lot of people.
It's a thing.
Oh yeah, we saw a lot of people that were just oh look, it's Sunday. Yeah. This is what we do on Sundays.
And couples doing it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of couples doing it actually.
Yeah.
But that also goes back when we went to Tokyo Disney Sea. We saw a lot of couples cosplaying together too. So clearly,
Aladdin because it's a recent movie.
Yeah, a lot of Aladdin and Jasmine's.
But lots of everything actually. Mm-hmm. I would have been totally down to dress up, and it actually was one of the things I enjoyed most about the hotel in Fuji.
Yeah,
was the whole experience of spending the 24 hours in a.
So to end this here, if you went back to Japan, what else? What new thing would you do when you were in Japan?
I think there are some. I would like to do the national parks a little bit.
Okay.
I understand there's some beautiful national parks. We didn't get real wildernessy.
No, I'm not a real wildernessy person, but I can be coaxed into it when necessary.
Yeah, so I think I would have liked that. I really loved the bamboo forest and maybe a little bit more sort of hiking.
I want to go back to Mount Fuji and I want to do that bicycle trip.
I would love to do that.
I want to get. I mean, like, I would almost want to find a way to get 2 weeks off, and one of those weeks just bicycling around and backpacking around Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
Like, I think
I'm totally down for
that.
I
would totally find a way to do that if we could.
Yeah.
And then find something else to do in Japan while we were there.
Yeah. The islands are supposed to be really lovely.
Again, the further you go south is more beach country. I mean, like,
Tokyo,
Japan's a lot like California in a way. Like we were kind of in like the middle portion of it when we were in like Osaka and Kyoto, and then like Tokyo is kind of like, I think, like the Bay Area, and then you can keep going up a little bit more north and you get kind of more in Hokkaido and you get a little bit more mountainy and wintry kind of feelings up there.
Well, but I think one of the things that you did really well is I've talked to other people who have gone, and they started and ended in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really glad, they went other places, but they started and ended in Tokyo. And I was really thankful to be able to sort of slide into it. Osaka is much slower.
More laid back. I think if I had the choice to live in Japan, I would probably live in either like Kyoto or Osaka. Osaka was very, very friendly at the end of the day, very laid back, very kind of genteel, kind of felt like being in the suburbs.
Yeah, it was San Francisco to LA.
Yeah.
So San Francisco being a little more chill and laid back, and LA being
a big capital, with a lot of media and attention.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I felt like as we worked our way north, things got sort of picked up steam, and it was a nice way to allow yourself to make the adjustment to the culture without having sort of the onrush that Tokyo is. And I really love Tokyo, but it's a lot.
Absolutely.
It would be to me, it would be overwhelming to start there.
I think so too. I think it is as busy and active as Tokyo is, and all the stuff you can do in Tokyo. I think because we started off in kind of a much more laid back thing, that we got our own feel for it, and we got to kind of ease into it. I think if we were expecting everything to be very high energy constantly while we were in Tokyo, and then kind of settle into kind of more slow kind of meanderingness that was Nara and Osaka and Kyoto for the most part.
Yeah.
That it would have been very much a sort of culture shift, I think, for us.
Yeah, I just think I would have been overwhelmed.
Excellent. So, finally, we're going to be done with... We're not talking about Japan anymore. We are moving on to new topics next week, and we're going to have a magical topic that we'll talk about next week.
Okay.
I'm already in the process of planning for it.
Okay.
And so we're going to have all these tips and tricks. We're going to have it on our website at thenerdtutorialpodcast.com. You can see a link on there as well from our facebook.com/nerdtutorialpodcast as well. And if you have ideas for future topics or anything you want to add to our conversation, you can always let me know on nerd_tutorial, and I'll be more than happy to share it again with all of our fans. But on behalf of myself and my mom, thank you so much for indulging us on this long, almost 2 months worth of Japan talk here. And we'll move on to something else new if you don't want to keep hearing us talk about Japan now. But we have I have a very magical topic next week.
Okay.
And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys again next time.
Sayonara.
Bye.